Yet another senior U.S. official touching down in Israel to meet with the Israeli Prime Minister and senior members of his government. This time, it's the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who is the latest in a parade of senior U.S. officials who visited Israel just this past week. A week that began with Jared Kushner and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff arriving in Israel, and then you saw the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance doing the same, and now we're up to the Secretary of State. It's all part of an effort that one U.S. official termed as Bibi Sitting, a play on the Israeli Prime Minister's nickname, Bibi Netanyahu. And that's because U.S. officials, have been concerned that the Israeli Prime Minister is simply not as committed to this ceasefire agreement as the United States is, not as committed to ensuring that this ceasefire agreement not only holds, but actually results in that enduring end to the war in Gaza that President Trump has described. We have seen that Vance and Rubio have already talked about, the efforts necessary to ensure that this ceasefire actually sticks, as the U.S. is expending really significant diplomatic and political capital here in Israel in order to not just monitor this ceasefire, but actually mediate potential disputes that may arise, standing up this new civilian military coordination center about a dozen miles away from the Gaza border, where you have U.S. military officials and others monitoring this ceasefire, ensuring the entry of humanitarian aid, and starting to prepare for the next phases of this ceasefire. And we heard the Vice President J.D. Vance on Thursday talk about some of those efforts, standing up this international stabilization force that will go into Gaza and take over parts of the Strip from both Hamas and from the Israeli military. We also heard for the first time from the Vice President a timeline for the potential rebuilding of parts of Gaza, including the southern city of Rafah.
I think that we could actually have tens of thousands of Gazans moving into southern Gaza, where again you have the Hamas-free zone in the next couple of months, and then tens of thousands beyond that. I think the hope is to rebuild Rafah over the next 2 to 3 years, and theoretically you could have 500,000 people live in a rebuilt Rafah.
The Vice President also addressed a vote that happened in Israel's parliament while he was in Israel. This was a vote to advance a bill that would see Israel annex large swaths of the West Bank. J.D. Vance, the Vice President, saying that he was not only insulted by this vote, calling it a stupid political stunt, but also reiterating that the U.S. would not allow Israel to do so. The Israeli Prime Minister, for his part, his office blaming Israel's opposition, even though most of the votes in favor of this bill came from his own governing coalition. But he did say that without his party's support, the Likud, this vote would not go anywhere. Jeremy Diamond, CNN, Jerusalem.